Hi everyone, this is Subham and this is the first module of Xartup Fellowship where we'll be discussing about how to brainstorm ideas. If you fall into these three categories, this video is intended for you. Even if you are not into these three categories, this video might be helpful for you in some way or the other. But if you do not have an idea yet and you want to build a startup right now, this video will be immensely valuable for you. Or if you fall into the category where you are working on an idea or you have multiple ideas but you are not sure which idea to follow for a long term, build for a long term, and which idea to leave behind, then also this video will be immensely valuable for you. With that note, I'll give you the agenda of this video. We'll be talking about two mistakes most of the founders make while executing a startup idea. Then we'll talk about how to generate startup ideas organically. And then we'll talk about how to evaluate your startup ideas. So let's start with the two common mistakes. Here is the x-axis where there are few people, few founders who become stoic, who become procrastinating during the phase of building their startup. They think, what if nobody needs it anyways? Should I even build this idea? Is it just me thinking about this idea and no one needs it? Something like that. A lot of negative thoughts. On the other end of the spectrum, if you see, there are founders who just do it. They just go ahead and execute whatever ideas they have. Take a minute and think about it. You can pause this video. Where do you lie right now? Are you someone who belongs to this procrastinating category, or you are someone who belongs to this just do it attitude category? So I hope you are able to create your dot in this axis, in this x-axis. Moving forward, what if I tell you both these approaches are wrong? And this is coming from the pattern that we have seen at Xartup Fellowship, the pattern that we have seen from our research in India startup ecosystem in the last 2 years. There are founders who think that they need an amazing idea, and that results in the phase of procrastination. When they think, what if nobody needs this idea anyways? And they stop working on the idea. This is one of the biggest mistakes that founders do. Let's talk about the second one. If you think you belong to this category, just do it, then jumping into an idea without evaluating if it is a good one is another big mistake that a lot of founders do. So if you think you belong to any of these categories, then also this video will be immensely valuable for you, as we'll be laying out a lot of frameworks to give you an awareness of where do you stand right now. So breaking all the myths and giving you a proper way to evaluate your startup idea. Think of your idea as a good starting point, just a starting point. Don't get obsessed with it. Good ideas are born out of linear ideation. You won't get the biggest idea to build the Apple or the next Google in the world tonight at 12 a.m. That is not possible at all. But maybe you'll get certain problems, certain instances, certain nuances that you can add up and build something great in the long run. And if you haven't accepted it yet, building a startup is a marathon. It's not a sprint. On that note, how to get a good starting point? As we discussed, you need a starting point. The starting point will be the basis for your linear ideation that we'll be talking about in the next few minutes. To get a good starting point, you need to notice genuine problems people face. Maybe when you are coming out of your apartment, trying to go to your office, you're not getting an auto. And a lot of people in your area, let's say in Mumbai, face the same problem. They are not able to get an auto. That's a genuine problem. That's an eternal truth as a problem that no one can defend. If you're pitching to an investor, or if you are trying to convince yourself to quit your job and get into building that idea. Once you get such a genuine problem, then can you build that product to solve the problem? Is another question altogether. But it is a good starting point. If you can notice genuine problems that exist in the world, that exist in your society, that exist in your locality, among your friends and family, whatever it is. Moving forward, work at a startup and understand their dynamics. If you have already worked at a startup, let it be an agri-tech startup like Ninja Card, and if you are going forward to build an agri-tech startup, later on, it will be immensely helpful because that experience will have given you an exposure on how things are laid out on multiple ends altogether. You just have to join those ends and figure out a USP to build your own startup. The third one is about noticing what is missing in a product. So let's say if you are using a product, whatever it is, may it be Tinder, may it be Dunzo, may it be Facebook even, and if you have noticed that something is missing in that product, then that can be a USP for your own startup idea. So these are few ways to get a good starting point. Once you get a good starting point, it is very, very easy to do linear ideation. So in the same scenario, imagine I'm building a product for people in Mumbai who are facing this issue that whenever they come out of their apartment, they are not able to hail an auto. That is my starting point over here. Now, I, along with my co-founders, sat for a few hours and we decided that we are going to build a product to solve this specific problem. Something like an Uber, which can solve the ride hailing problem of people in Mumbai during office hours, right? That's a tick for me. But did I consider the variables? Why is Uber not successful? Why is Ola not successful in the same market where we are trying to build a same product? No, right? So that's where I'll face a hindrance. That's where there will be a problem. Again, I need to sit with my co-founder and discuss how exactly do I move forward from here. On the same aspect, you might come across new ideas which will instantly fail just because of some variables that you had never thought of. If that happens, well and good, just move on. But in some scenarios, interestingly, when you start with this idea that I'm going to start ride hailing services for people in Mumbai who do not get auto during office hours, I sort of figured out a way to go till this point, but I figured out that Uber and Ola haven't figured this out, so I can't do the same thing, right? Then, if I come back to the same scenario where I was right, that okay, this problem is genuine, this will solve a lot of pain for people in Mumbai who go to office on a regular basis, then I can think about an out of the box way to solve the same problem. Maybe three-wheelers and four-wheelers occupy a lot of road space and they are not able to accommodate that much people in order to take them to office. What about two-wheelers like Rapido, which comes into this picture? Yeah, that will be in a different direction. But yes, I can move forward with the same idea. So this is called linear ideation, where I'm not changing my idea at all. I'm just thinking about out of the box way to solve the same problem. The problem was about helping people hail cabs or reach to their office on time during office hours. Uber and Ola are not able to do it because of some reasons. If I can figure out that reason, I can instantly think up of an out of the box way to do it, like launching a service like Rapido. And that's how Rapido was born in general. Then, in the same way, I might face some other obstacles, some other hurdles, and then I have to again find out a out of the box way to move forward. So, this is what is called linear ideation. Once you execute that idea, once you build that product, once you talk to the customers, then you will figure out a hindrance which will stop you from moving forward. Then just come back and introspect what is going wrong and then think about an out of the box way to execute the same idea. That's exactly how the next Apple or the next Google can be born. These are called linear ideation. The big companies have all the funding to execute this, but when we are talking about an early stage startup, an idea stage startup, you have to do it all by bootstrapping, investing very little money and spending a lot of time on customer research, talking to customers, launching products by yourself. On that aspect, I'll give you an example of a startup called Atominx. Atominx was a deep tech startup, and both the founders had an edge fit. On that context, we'll talk about what is edge fit, what does edge fit means. Both the founders have had an expertise in terms of edge computing. Both were from technical backgrounds. They both understood how technology can change quantum measuring devices. So that was their edge. When both of them sat together, they figured out that this is what they are going to do. This was their starting point, quantum measuring devices. Moving forward, they had a belief. Belief is formed by both the co-founders coming together and fixating on a certain belief system. So let's say if I belong to the education industry and my co-founder is a tech guy who also belongs to the education industry, we both have the same belief that education technology will change the current one-on-one schooling system, offline schooling system of the world. Right? If that is our belief, we can build edtech products because we both are agree in terms of what is the future of education is going to be. We can be wrong, but we both have the same belief. That's also a right way to get a co-founder, which we'll discuss in the next video. So both of them had a common belief that navigation systems of the future can have pinpoint accuracy. So right now, if you open your navigation app and see the accuracy is almost 10% or 15% off. But these co-founders, because of their background in terms of building quantum devices, building quantum measuring devices specifically, they had this belief that navigation systems of the future can have pinpoint accuracy, which is not present right now. They did linear ideation. They came up with a hunch. A hunch is basically an idea that these guys are willing to build together. The hunch can be validated with the right approach, or it can be invalidated in case the customers are not willing to buy this. Their hunch was primarily that the companies who heavily rely on geolocalization needs accurate positioning systems. So these companies who heavily rely on geolocalization needs. So let's say specifically the motor vehicle companies who locate the location of a truck at a particular city and then send logistics from location A to B. These companies heavily rely on geolocation needs, but they are not getting accurate positioning of their trucks and vehicles, right? So let's say if a logistics company is sending a vehicle, a truck from Mumbai to Delhi, then the location is almost 50 kilometer off from what they can see in their app, location of the truck I'm talking about. In that case, the belief became strong. The belief was, again, around navigation system of the future can have pinpoint accuracy. The hunch became strong that these companies who are not getting accurate accuracy of their trucks will be willing to buy a more accurate navigation system. Then, once a hunch is established between the co-founders, they need to test it. How do they test it? Mining industry needs to locate ore reserves. That was one test that they wanted to do. Instead of going to logistics companies, they wanted to get into the mining industry and see if they can help the mining industry people locate ore reserves in a more pinpoint accurate way. After talking to mining people, they could realize that geospatial imaging is used, and geospatial imaging is something which is very accurate. So mining people do not need their accurate positioning system. That was a oh shit moment for them. But they kept on doing linear ideation. In mining industry, it didn't work. Well and good. Can we get into another industry and see if it works or not? So they started getting into ONG industry or oil and gas industry. They could figure out that ONG industry requires accurate positioning systems to mine and find oil fields in deep water. Over there, geospatial imaging is not used. It was just their hypothesis. They didn't know anything about it. Then they started talking to the customers in oil and gas industry. And then they realized that geoscientists are hired to locate oil reserves. ONG cares about reducing drilling cost. So the oil and gas industry hypothesis that they had got invalidated just by talking to the people in the oil and gas industry. Just by knowing the fact that geoscientists are hired to locate oil reserves accurately. So even if they build a navigation system which is more accurate than all the compasses which exist in the world, they won't buy. The geoscientists won't buy this. But they had a learning curve from here. They could learn that probes are sent underwater to help with drilling, but navigation is hard. So they could realize that, okay, these scientists are sending underwater bots to do drilling, but navigation is still a harder part for them. From this linear ideation, oh shit moment, they pivoted. Specifically, as you can realize, they have arrived at a conclusion. They have arrived at an interesting place where they could realize from the geoscientists that navigation is hard for probes which are sent underwater. It's a very specific niche use case. But this is where scientists are willing to pay money for them to build something like this. So they had this hypothesis now. Underwater navigation using submarines, can they help with the navigation system for these probes? And it got validated. The GPS, which is currently used, or the geospatial imaging, which is currently used underwater, is not able to pinpoint location underwater. That's where they had an edge. As we talked about, they have built quantum measuring devices before, they have experience in this field before. And now this problem, which they could figure out just by talking to customers, just by invalidating two of their hypotheses, you can say they failed 2 times. But now they have something solid. If they can build this product, then ONG industry is willing to buy this because it is solving a few $1 trillion problem for them. That is what is called linear ideation. To summarize, these are strong beliefs, but weakly held. What do I mean by that? The belief that these guys had that navigation systems of the future can have pinpoint accuracy is something very strong. Both these co-founders can bet on this particular fact. Giving you some more examples, it can be something like the same one which I gave. The tech industry or online videos or maybe YouTube is going to change the education system in a way that school education won't exist or offline education won't exist after a few years. That can be a very strong belief. It can be wrong, it can be correct, we don't know that, but that is very strong. If you get someone as a co-founder who vibes with your belief, or you both can come up with a generic belief, which is something contrary to what normal people believe, then that is something very interesting. After the belief is formed, the hunch is just a hypothesis that companies who heavily rely on geolocalization needs, accurate positioning systems, can be a good target for selling a better or more accurate navigation system. But that they came up with three tests. One was in the mining industry, one was in the oil and gas industry. And from these two tests, they could figure out or they could infer another test that in underwater scenario, GPS devices which are currently used are not good at all. On that basis, having strong beliefs which are weakly held, as in they were ready to pivot. If the idea failed over here, they pivoted. If the idea again failed over here, they pivoted. This is what is called a linear ideation process. And whenever we are pivoting, make sure to do a linear pivot. They didn't change their idea from navigation system to building a rocket fuel. That is called random pivoting. So on that note, hopefully this framework will be very helpful for you in terms of generating your idea. Moving forward, we'll discuss few frameworks for doing an evaluation for your idea. One is the idea maze and the other one is the decision matrix. Starting with the idea maze, we all have this concern. How do we evaluate if our idea is good? Even if we came across the ideation metrics, figured out all the ways of getting failed and figured out something interesting that people actually need. But do we actually want to build that product for the next 5 years of our life? That is something interesting. So great founders have a bird's eye view of the idea space, of the industry, maybe history of that industry, current and future possibilities of that industry, and they just ride on the market. They don't stick to a particular approach, particular process, or a particular idea for that matter. They ride on the market sentiments. They ride on the history or the future possibilities of that idea. I'll take you through an idea maze for your understanding, and you can find a framework attached in the comment box of this video and towards the material box of your learning management system of Xartup Fellowship. You can find that material, go through it, and understand how to create an idea maze. So someone who is building something in the streaming industry, they're not sure about what idea to work on. They don't know basically which idea will work, but they have experience in the streaming industry. Relating to your experience, if you are a student, you understand students really well. You might have used a lot of products as a student, may it be payment apps, taking debt, apps for taking debts, peer-to-peer lending services, or maybe your school's admission system. Whatever it is, you understand that system really well. If you are a working professional in a particular industry, maybe music industry, let's say, you understand that industry really well. So it can be a good starting point to start with an idea maze, to lay out all your understanding about a particular industry and then figure out blue ocean opportunities within that point. I'll explain it in a more better way. Moving forward, if someone is building a product in the streaming industry for that matter, they can lay out this whole landscape. How was it started? With BitTorrent, open source systems that people use for downloading videos and getting content, to Netflix, where original non-Hollywood content existed initially, and in Amazon Prime, where Hollywood content existed. Once you lay out the whole industry, you'll get a fair understanding on where exactly are you playing. Are you playing against BitTorrent? Is it your competition? Is it something which is going to get outcompeted by players like Netflix, Amazon? Then it might not be a good industry to play in. You'll have your own hypothesis based on this idea maze. So if you are an experienced professional or if you have good experience in terms of using a product or working on a product, then go ahead, start with an idea maze. This will give you a lot of clarity in terms of what you should build going further. Moving forward to another framework, which is called the Ideation Decision Matrix. This is developed by us. This is how it looks like. So let's say if you have 5 ideas right now, after going through the generate idea phase where you did linear ideation on multiple ideas with your co-founders or maybe alone. And once you built an idea maze, like the previous ones and the one in the streaming industry, you got a fair amount of understanding of what kind of ideas can you come up with, what kind of ideas do you actually like building. Then for that matter, if you can shortlist 5 ideas, you have 5 options over here in the y-axis. Option 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this particular row. Then you can have edge fit. Edge fit is primarily something which you have from your background, that is your edge. or from your co-founder's background. For that matter, giving you an instance, I come from an investment banking background, and one of my co-founder comes from a tech background, let's say. So both of us can come together and brainstorm on fintech landscape because I understand the market, how investment happens, how asset management happens for bigger clients. And my co-founder understands the technology aspect of building an app or a product. We both have an edge fit in the fintech industry. So on that matter, if I have some fintech ideas over here versus some edtech ideas over here, then the edge fit will take up more value on the fintech idea because we both are coming from the same background where a fintech idea makes more sense. On that same matter, we can discuss market sizing. You can search about the total addressable market of your idea. May it be specific to a particular industry or very niche in edtech itself, cohort-based education, let's say, or in fintech, peer-to-peer lending, let's say. So you can look at market size and again evaluate 5 of your ideas based on that. We'll discuss more detail in terms of market size, how to calculate that. But you can do a secondary research on Google and figure out these points for this. Competitive advantage. Do you know of certain competitors who are in this market who are better than you? So let's say if you are willing to build the next Byju's or Vedantu, it doesn't make sense because these bigger clients or bigger players already exist in the market who cannot let you build a bigger company than them because they have invested billions of dollars in the market. They can buy small players very easily. So likely competitive advantage is not there in such cases where you are trying to build the next Byju's, the next Vedantu, or next Google itself. But is there one idea among these 5 options which have a likely competitive advantage? Maybe you do not know any competitor on that space, or you know of 2 or 3 competitors in that space which are based out of US, but in India's market, none of these competitors are present. So on that basis, you can again rate these guys from 1 to 5. So let's say option 1 has a lot of competition, then you'll rate it 1 or 0. Option 5 have very less competition, then you'll rate it 5. Customer accessibility. Do you know of certain customers will buy your product instantly if you launch it? For that matter, you can give 5 if option 1 can be bought by a lot of people. If option 5 can be bought by a lot of people, again, it will take 5. If option 4, you don't know a single customer will buy this product, you'll rate it 0. Time to first revenue, B2E versus B2C, whatever it is. Can you generate revenue within a month with option 1 idea? If yes, then it can be rated at 5. But in the same case, if option 5 takes you 1 year to generate revenue, you can rate it 1. In the same way, if option 3 is taking you 2 months, you can rate it 4, something like that. Rate all these ideas from 0 to 5 on the basis of this criteria. Motivation. And this matters a lot because anyways, you are going to work on this idea, not I, not your investor, not your advisor. So are you someone who is motivated about building this product for next 10 years of your life? If yes, then you can rate option 1 as 5 if you are ready to do it for option 1. If your motivation is very less for option 5, you can rate it 0. On that basis, you can get scores. There is an Excel sheet which is attached with this particular video. The framework is attached. You can do your exercise, brainstorm around your own idea, and hopefully you'll figure out something interesting to build.